What's up everyone, James here, and in today's video I wanted to talk about the top 5 things that I learned about shrimp. So before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I put out weekly videos on all my fish keeping antics, so hopefully there's something for everybody. Right, let's get to it. Number 5, Neocaridina shrimp actually come from the rivers of Taiwan. They're most commonly found from sort of research that I've looked at in sort of fresh, clear running streams with a lot of foliage. But according to a lot of sources, the actual evolution of the shrimp that we see in our aquariums is actually unknown. And I thought that was really interesting. Also, the actual Neocaridina shrimp wild types are generally brown or green. They're not the variety of colors that you see in your aquarium, such as reds, greens, blues, yellows, oranges, and everything else in between. One thing that I never realized also was that a lot of the shrimp that you keep in your aquariums of all the different colors are actually derived from the actual cherry shrimp. So it really confused me when I went into some of my local fish shops and saw them quoted as sort of orange cherry shrimp or blue cherry shrimp. And yeah, after doing my research and stuff, yeah, it turns out that a lot of people do just generally call them cherry shrimp because these are variants of the original red cherries, or even wild type cherry shrimp, which are the green and brown ones. Number 4, there are actually aggressive variants of shrimp. I didn't actually realize this until a friend of mine on social media had actually acquired some. They were considered, or they were listed, sorry, in the shop as ghost shrimp, but it turned out after some research that they were actually whisker shrimp. And whisker shrimp can be quite aggressive. They look very alien-like as well, and they're a lot bigger than, you know, your average cherry shrimps, or they're even bigger than Amano shrimps. And yeah, it was just crazy to see. And adding these shrimp with any other kind of shrimp, or even their own kind, they will tend to fight until the death. And yeah, it's absolutely fascinating to watch. But it's also very interesting because, like I said, a lot of the shops that you could buy these shrimp in, they might be sold as ghost shrimp, but they really are whisker shrimp. Number 3, cleaner shrimp or skunk shrimp in the marine keeping world aren't actually cleaner shrimp, in the sense that a lot of people's perception of them is that they will go around cleaning the aquarium like a lot of our freshwater shrimp. So, they will often graze on algae or eat detritus or anything else that's kicking around, and would be considered cleanup crew. Whereas cleaner shrimp actually clean fish, not the substrate and rocks and stuff, although they will, I have seen them graze about from my experience, but for the most part they tend to actually clean fish. Now, I never got the footage of this, but I saw it a couple of times in my own aquarium where a green chromis slowly backed up to one of the cleaner shrimp, and he swam up to them, and I saw him actually picking and sort of cleaning the fish, and I thought it was the most amazing thing ever. And I tried to catch it a couple of times on a video, but unfortunately I never got there in time. Every time I got close, it just scared the fish and they swam away. But yeah, it's definitely something to check out if you've ever seen it before. And yeah, just an interesting fact. Number 2, shrimp technically don't need feeding. And what I mean by that is that generally, if you're putting these shrimp into your aquariums with other fish and various other different animals, providing that they're sort of peaceful community fish, a lot of waste that the fish produce, the shrimp will generally graze on. And if the aquarium's got algae builds up, then the shrimp will eat that. If you have botanicals, their biofilms can sort of appear naturally over driftwood as well. And shrimp will graze on that. So generally, as long as there's some other life in the aquarium that's producing waste, or even natural products, then the shrimp will have something to eat. But there are, various other different things that you can feed your shrimp. It's not just the sort of shrimp pellets that you might see. You can feed various different types of leaves, pollens, nettles. There's loads of different things that you can feed them, and they will readily take that, even like shrimp lollies and things like that if you want to sort of treat them. But it's all essentially the same stuff, and you can actually buy them in individual bags. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is that there's not just you don't have to feed your shrimp in the sense of buying loads of products and actually giving it to them, although they will benefit from that naturally, you know, with all the health benefits to that. But generally they can graze and you know, will happily live out their life. And the number one fundamental thing that I wanted to talk about, which I learned about shrimp, is that they are ridiculously sensitive to stress. And what I mean by that is, like, if you do not acclimate these shrimp properly, you can tend to have a lot of problems with them in terms of shock and them dying off very quickly after getting them. I think I remember reading a sort of a stat that said like 1 in 10 shrimp that get placed into an aquarium incorrectly will end up dying. How true that is, I don't know. That was just some sort of thing that I heard once. But yeah, it's really interesting, and the best ways that I found to acclimate, because originally with my cherry shrimp in this tank here, I just plopped them in like a long time ago, and I just did the, you know, the sort of bag in the water. This is right at the very beginning of my fish keeping you know, journey. I put the bag in the water, let the water acclimatize to the temperature of the tank, and then just literally yeah, put a knife to the bag and then let all the shrimp in. And yeah, most part they were okay. So I thought that they were quite resilient. Obviously the cherry shrimp variety are probably more accustomed to sort of your average fish keeper parameters, probably because they're more commonly sold, and the same with Amano shrimp. But when you come to other variants and colors, that's when I noticed that the mortality rate is a lot higher. So I think that you need to take more consideration and care about how you acclimate them. An example of this was I did a video on a shrimp tank that I built called Blue Dream Jungle, and I acclimated those shrimp. I actually drip acclimated them this time, but unfortunately they had been stuck in the post and for an extra day, and I think all that stress and me acclimating for, I think it was about an hour and a half I acclimated them for, still wasn't clearly enough, and it just shows you how sensitive those kind of shrimp are. So recently I bought some more shrimp, some orange sakura and some black, sort of black shrimp, neon blues, whatever you want to call them. And when I acclimated them this time, I acclimated them over a period of about 2 to 3 hours. Probably about 3 hours, and I tried to check the parameters of the water that was in the aquarium, thanks to some advice from some friends that I know, parameters in the aquarium, and then slowly just checked on them. And also what I did is I put a towel over the tub that I had the shrimp in, just to keep the lights, and turned the lights off, kept everything dark and just very calm for them. And then yeah, I placed them into the aquarium after that, just gently, and they've been absolutely fine since, and I've not lost any, which is just amazing. Now you could argue that these shrimp did come from a local fish shop, so stress levels terms wise was technically lower, but yeah, it was still interesting. And like I said, it's just food for thought really. You know, just if you're having shrimp, just make sure that you're very careful with them, especially if you're spending lots of money on them, because some shrimp, especially these days, can get very expensive, especially with the really high-end grade ones. And yeah, the worst thing that you'd want to be doing is losing all your shrimp if you hadn't, you know, taken the time to acclimate them and just be as careful as possible. That's all I'm trying to say. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and let me know what you've learned in the past about shrimp in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. It's always really interesting to share information like this, because especially with shrimp, I feel like some of the information that's online is a bit mixed, and yeah, it's not always clear. So yeah, it's always fascinating to hear everybody else's perspectives on these things. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. And if you want to support my channel and my pages on Patreon, there's a link in the description below if you want to do that. And to all the people that have subscribed to my Patreon, I really appreciate your support. It means the world to me. And yeah, hopefully I can make this channel even bigger and better for you. So for those of you stuck around, next episode on this channel is going to be about different types of foods that you can feed your shrimp. So make sure you check out that video. Come in later on in the week. And until next time, you stay safe.